All right, we will start the story. I'll read and explain. The same story will be sent to you in the form of PDF. When you watch this video, turn the PDF on, open it rather, and look into it as and when you watch the video, so that it will help you understand the story properly. Many people have unusual pets because those are far more exciting than ordinary ones. People have unusual pets. Unusual, uncommon, ಅಸಾಧಾರಣವಾದಂಥ ಪ್ರಾಣಿಗಳನ್ನು ಸಾಕೋದು. Pet is ಸಾಕು ಪ್ರಾಣಿ, an animal which you take care of at home, giving it food and shelter. That's a pet animal. You tame it. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗ್ ಕೂಡ ಕೊಡ್ತೀರಾ. Usually what pet animals will people have? It may be a dog, it may be a cat, or it may be a bird, a parrot, some pigeons. These are some common pet animals that people have at home. ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಸಾಕುವಂಥ ಪ್ರಾಣಿಗಳಿವು. But some people have unusual pets, ಅಸಾಮಾನ್ಯವಾದ್ದು. Why? The reason is having an unusual pet is more exciting. ತುಂಬ ರೋಮಾಂಚನಕಾರಿಯಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. It's very interesting to have an unusual pet. So people have unusual pets. They prefer unusual pets to ordinary ones. ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಸಾಕುವಂಥವು ಅದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಅಸಾಮಾನ್ಯವಾದ ಸಾಕಿದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಆಸಕ್ತಿಕರವಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಅವರ ಉದ್ದೇಶ. The grandmother in this story puts her foot down when her husband brings home a young python. So this story, as I told you, remember the characters. I did not mention the pet, unusual pet. What is the unusual pet that the grandfather brings home? It is a python. ಹೆಬ್ಬಾವು. ಹೆಬ್ಬಾವನ್ನು ಯಾರು ಸಾಕ್ತಾರೆ? ಅದನ್ನು ಸಾಕು ಪ್ರಾಣಿಯಾಗಿ ಯಾರು ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತಾರೆ? This is unusual pet. And what did grandmother do when grandfather brought home a python as a pet? What was grandmother's reaction? How did she react, or how did she respond to this? She puts her foot down. She put her foot down. That is the idiom. Put one's feet down is the idiom. The meaning of this idiom is tell someone firmly or strongly that they must do something or must stop doing something. The meaning of this idiom, put one's feet down, is tell someone firmly or strongly that they must do something or must stop doing something. ಯಾರಿಗಾದರೂ ನೀವು ಖಚಿತವಾಗಿ ದೃಢವಾಗಿ ಹೇಳೋವಂಥದ್ದು, ಇಂಥದ್ದೊಂದು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಥವಾ ಇಂಥ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಬೇಡಿ ಅಂತ ದೃಢವಾಗಿ ಹೇಳೋದನ್ನೇ put one's feet down ಅಂತ ಅರ್ಥ. So grandmother, what did grandmother do? She puts her foot down when her husband brings home a young python. So what did she tell firmly or strongly to grandfather? That he must rid off the python. Or she tells him that he cannot have a python for a pet at home. ಹೆಬ್ಬಾವನ್ನು ಸಾಕು ಪ್ರಾಣಿಯಾಗಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ಅಸಾಧ್ಯ ಅಂತ ದೃಢವಾಗಿ ಗ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ಫಾದರ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳುವಂಥದ್ದು. So she dislikes it. So we can understand grandmother's reaction. She dislikes to have a python as a pet. And anybody can understand that it is not safe to have a python at home. It is quite natural, sahaja. Asahaja ಏನು? Something that is unusual. Having a python for a pet at home is something unusual. Grandmother was tolerant of most birds and animals. but she drew the line at reptiles. So she was tolerant. Tolerant ಅಂದರೆ ಸಹಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು. ಯಾವ ಸಾಕು ಪ್ರಾಣಿಗಳನ್ನು ಸಹಿಸ್ಕೊತಾ ಇದ್ರು? Which pet animals did she tolerate? She tolerated some birds and some animals which are harmless. But she drew the line at reptiles. ಆದರೆ ಈ ರೆಪ್ಟೈಲ್ಸ್, ಈ ಹಾವುಗಳು ಇಂಥದ್ದನ್ನು ತಂದರೆ ವಾಟ್ ಡಿಡ್ ಶಿ ಡು? ಶಿ ಡ್ರೀವ್ ದ ಲೈನ್. ಶಿ ಡ್ರೀವ್ ದ ಲೈನ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಶಿ ಪುಟ್ ಎ ಲಿಮಿಟ್ ಆರ್ ರಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ಟೆಡ್ ಆರ್ ಶಿ ಡಿಡ್ ನಾಟ್ ಅಲೌ grandfather to have a reptile for a pet animal. So the meaning of draw the line, put a limit, ನಿರ್ಬಂಧಿಸೋದು. put a limit, ನಿರ್ಬಂಧಿಸು, restrict. ಯಾವ ಪ್ರಾಣಿಗಳನ್ನು ಸಾಕು ಪ್ರಾಣಿಗಳನ್ನಾಗಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕ್ಕೆ ನಿರ್ಬಂಧ? ರೆಪ್ಟೈಲ್ಸ್, ಹಾವುಗಳು ಇಂಥದ್ದನ್ನು. She said they made her blood run cold. Blood run cold. Again, it's an idiom. The meaning of blood run cold is feel very frightened. ತುಂಬ ಭಯ ಆಗೋದು. ಯಾರಿಗೆ ತಾನೇ ಭಯ ಆಗಲ್ಲ? Who will not get frightened seeing a python? Anybody will get frightened. So she was telling grandfather that if she saw reptiles, she would get very frightened, and therefore she disallowed reptiles to be kept as pet animals at home. Grandfather should have known that there was little chance of his being allowed to keep the python. Grandfather should have known, he should have understood before bringing the python, he should have understood that grandmother will definitely not allow him to have a python at home for a pet. ಸಾಕು ಪ್ರಾಣಿಯಾಗಿ ಹೆಬ್ಬಾವನ್ನು ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕ್ಕೆ ಗ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಬಿಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಅವರು ಮುಂಚೆನೇ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಹಿ ಶುಡ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟುಡ್ ದಟ್ ಒನ್. ಹವೆವರ್ ಹಿ ಡಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ರಿಯಲೈಸ್, ಆದರೆ ಅವರು ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ 4 feet ಲಾಂಗ್. ಹೌ ಲಾಂಗ್ ವಾಸ್ ದ ಪೈಥಾನ್? 4 feet. ವಾಟ್ ಡಿಡ್ ಗ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಫಾದರ್ bring home as a pet? A python. All these are possible questions for 2 marks. Why do people keep unusual pets? Because it is far more exciting. And what did grandmother do when grandfather brought the python? She resisted, she opposed. So these are some possible questions. It was about 4 feet long, a young one, when grandfather bought it from a snake charmer for 6 rupees. How many rupees did grandfather pay for the python? He paid 6 rupees. Who did grandfather buy the python from? A snake charmer. Snake charmer ಅಂದರೆ ಒಬ್ಬ ಹಾವಾಡಿಗ. ಹಾವಾಡಿಗನ ಹತ್ರ ಅದನ್ನು ಕೊಂಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬರ್ತಾರೆ. And see here this word bought. Bought, brought. These 2 words are often confused. Bought is you pay for something and you go to a shop, pay for it and own it. ನೀವು ದುಡ್ಡು ಕೊಟ್ಟು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಆ ವಸ್ತುವನ್ನು ಸ್ವಂತದ್ದನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊತೀರ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಬ್ರಿಂಗ್ ಇಟ್ ಹೋಮ್, ಮನೆಗೆ ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾರಿ ಇಟ್ ಹೋಮ್, ಮನೆಗೆ ತಗೊಂಡು ಬರ್ತೀರ. ಅದು ಅರ್ಥ. ಬಾಟ್, ಬ್ರಾಟ್. ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಬೈ, bought, bought. Bought is past tense, bought is past participle. Brought, bring, brought, brought. ಇದು ನೆನಪಿಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. Buy, bought, bought. Okay, this is bring, brought, brought. ಇದು ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸ. You should know this because often it is wrongly used or confused. So grandfather bought the python for how many rupees? For 6 rupees. And from whom? He bought it from a snake charmer. Impressing the bazaar crowd by slinging it across his shoulders and walking home with it. And not only did he buy it from the snake charmer, but he coiled it around his neck. ಕತ್ತಿಗೆ ಸುತ್ತಕೊಂಡು he was walking in the bazaar. ಆ ಹೆಬ್ಬಾವನ್ನು ಕತ್ತಿಗೆ ಸುತ್ತಕೊಂಡು ಅಥವಾ ಅವನ ಶೋಲ್ಡರ್ಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಹಾಕ್ಕೊಂಡು he started walking in the bazaar. And why did he do that? To impress the people in the bazaar. ಅವ್ರ ಮೆಚ್ಚುಗೆ ಪಡೆಯೋದಕ್ಕೆ, ಆ ಜನಗಳ ಮೆಚ್ಚುಗೆ ಪಡೆಯೋದಕ್ಕೆ he coiled it around his neck and he walked in the bazaar to impress the people there. This is something strange, unusual. This behavior is unusual and strange. Peculiar behavior. Idiosyncrasy anta karitar idanna. Idiosyncrasy is a peculiar behavior of a person. ವಿಚಿತ್ರವಾದ ವಿಲಕ್ಷಣವಾದಂಥ ನಡವಳಿಕೆ ಇದು. ಯಾರು ತಾನೇ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತಾರೆ? ಸೊ ಗ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಫಾದರ್ is a peculiar fellow, and to impress the people he coiled the python around his neck and started walking in the bazaar and walking home with it, and also he came like that to his house. Grandmother nearly fainted at the sight of the python curled around grandfather's throat. She nearly fainted. No sooner did she see grandfather curling the python around his neck than she nearly fainted. ನೋಡಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಅವರಿಗೆ ತಲೆ ಸುತ್ತಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. She was almost unconscious but not fully unconscious. That is her first reaction at the sight of the python. The moment she saw the python, at the sight of, ನೋಡಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ she virtually fainted. She almost fainted. She nearly fainted. ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಪ್ರಜ್ಞೆ ತಪ್ಪಿ ಬಿದ್ದೋಗುತ್ತೆ ಬೈಕೆ. You will be strangled, she cried. Get rid of it at once. You will be strangled. See, when we say strangle, you press somebody's throat to kill them. ಕತ್ತು ಹಿಸ್ಕೋದು. When the python is curled around his neck, obviously a python, that is how pythons, that is what pythons do. After swallowing, they curl around the branch of a tree. After swallowing the prey, they curl around the branch of a tree so that the prey inside, all the bones will break and they feel suffocated and die. ಉಸಿರು ಕಟ್ಟಿ ಸತ್ತೋಗ್ತಾರೆ, ಮೂಳೆಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಮುರಿದೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಒಂದು ಹೆಬ್ಬಾವು ಮನುಷ್ಯನನ್ನು ಅಥವಾ ಬೇರೆ ಪ್ರಾಣಿಯನ್ನು ನುಂಗಿದಾಗ ಒಂದು ಮರಕ್ಕೆ ಸುತ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ, ಒಂದು ಮರದ ಕೊಂಬೆಗೆ ಸುತ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ ತನ್ನ ದೇಹನ. ಒಳಗಡೆ ಇರುವಂಥ ಪ್ರಾಣಿ ಅಥವಾ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ಉಸಿರುಗಟ್ಟಿ ಮೂಳೆಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಮುರಿದು ಸತ್ತೋಗ್ತಾನೆ. ಅದು ಸ್ಟ್ರ್ಯಾಂಗಲ್. ಹಾಗೆಯೇ ವೆನ್ ದ ಪೈಥಾನ್ ಈಸ್ ಕರ್ಲ್ಡ್ ಅರೌಂಡ್ ಗ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಫಾದರ್ಸ್ ನೆಕ್, ದ ಪೈಥಾನ್ ಮೇ ಸ್ಟ್ರ್ಯಾಂಗಲ್ ಹಿಮ್. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಥ್ರೋಟ್ ಮೇ ಗೆಟ್ ಪ್ರೆಸ್ಡ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಹಿ ಮೇ ಡೈ ಆಫ್ ಸಫಕೇಷನ್. ಉಸಿರು ಕಟ್ಟಿ ಸಾಯ್ಬೋದು. ಶಿ ಕ್ರೈಡ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಶಿ ಡಿಡ್ ನಾಟ್ ಶೆಡ್ ಟಿಯರ್ಸ್, ಕಣ್ಣೀರು ಹಾಕ್ತಾ ಹೇಳಿಲ್ಲ. ಕ್ರೈಡ್ ಹಿಯರ್ ಇಸ್ ಶಿ ಶೌಟೆಡ್ ಲೌಡ್ಲಿ, ಜೋರಾಗಿ ಕಿರ್ಚೋದು. Cry in this context is shout loudly. She shouted loudly that the python may strangle him, that it may suffocate him and kill him. Get rid of it at once. Get rid of. Get rid of is you should take some action to be free of the unwanted person or animal or thing. He must take action. That is, he must immediately remove the python from his neck and throw it away, or he must dispose it off, or he must abandon. ಅದನ್ನು ಎಲ್ಲಾದರೂ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಬರಬೇಕು. That is what she suggested. She did not like it because it is harmful according to her. Anyway, it is harmful to anybody for that matter. Nonsense, said grandfather. Nonsense. Don't be silly and foolish. ಮೂರ್ಖತನದಿಂದ ಮಾತಾಡಬೇಡ. Don't be silly and foolish. He is only a young fellow. He will soon get used to us. This is grandfather's reaction to what grandmother said. He said, he is a young fellow. Idina chikka python idu. He will get used to us. He will become familiar with us. ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಪರಿಚಯ ಆಗಿ ಅಡ್ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಗ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ಫಾದರ್ ಹೇಳೋದು. He will soon get used to us. He will become familiar to us and he will become one among us. He will become a family member. That is grandfather's opinion about the pet animal. Will he indeed, said grandmother. Will he indeed? There is a question mark. It is interrogative sentence. Will he indeed? Indeed is used to ask a question and lay some emphasis. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಒತ್ತು ಕೊಡೋದು. Will he indeed get adjusted? Will he indeed become familiar? will he indeed get used to us? ನಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆ ಹೊಂದ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗುತ್ತಾ ಅದು ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ? ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಅನುಮಾನ. ಶಿ ಈಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ರೆಸ್ಸಿಂಗ್ ಹರ್ ಡೌಟ್. ಬಟ್ ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ನೋ ಇಂಟೆನ್ಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಗೆಟಿಂಗ್ ಯೂಸ್ಡ್ ಟು ಹಿಮ್. ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ is the case, grandmother is reluctant to get used to the python. Python ಬೇಕಾದರೆ ಎಲ್ಲರ ಜೊತೆ ಹೊಂದ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ, ಬಟ್ ಗ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಮದರ್ ಇಸ್ ರಿಲೆಕ್ಟೆಂಟ್, ಇಷ್ಟ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ. ಶಿ ಡಿಡ್ ನಾಟ್ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಗೆಟ್ ಯೂಸ್ಡ್ ಟು ದ ಪೈಥಾನ್. ಪೈಥಾನ್ ಜೊತೆ ಹೊಂದ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಶಿ ಡಿಸ್ಲೈಕ್ ದ ಪೈಥಾನ್. ಯು ನೋ ಕ್ವೈಟ್ ವೆಲ್ ದಟ್ ಯುವರ್ ಕಸಿನ್ ಮ್ಯಾಬಲ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಮಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಸ್ಟೇ ವಿತ್ ಅಸ್ ಟುಮಾರೋ. ಶಿ ವಿಲ್ ಲೀವ್ ಅಸ್ ದ ಮಿನಿಟ್ ಶಿ ನೋಸ್ ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಸ್ನೇಕ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಹೌಸ್. And she has one more strong reason why grandfather must abandon the snake. ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕಾರಣ ಯಾಕೆ ಹೆಬ್ಬಾವನ್ನ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಬಂದುಬಿಡ್ಬೇಕು ಎಲ್ಲಾದರೂ ಅಂತ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಮ್ಯಾಬಲ್ cousin to grandfather, she is coming home as a guest. She will stay for a few days. She is very afraid of snakes, these reptiles, and grandmother knew that very well. Therefore, she told grandfather that he must abandon the python. Otherwise, Mabel will not stay here even for a minute. ಒಂದು ನಿಮಿಷ ಕೂಡ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಎಚ್ಚರಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. Well, perhaps we ought to show it to her as soon as she arrives, said grandfather, who did not look forward to fussy Aunt Mabel's visits any more than I did. I here refers to the narrator. And now we get a glimpse of cousin Mabel's character, and what sort of character is she, or what sort of person is she? She is a fussy person. Fussy is a person who unnecessarily expresses anxiety about small things. ಸಣ್ಣ ಪುಟ್ಟದಕ್ಕೆಲ್ಲ ಆತಂಕ ಪಡೋದು ಅಂಥವ್ರನ್ನ ಫಸ್ ಸ್ಪಾಟ್ ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ, ಆರ್ ಸಚ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ ಆರ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಫಸ್ಸಿ. ಅವರು ಅನಗತ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಆತಂಕ ಪಡೋದು, ಅನಗತ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಭಯ ಪಡೋದು ಅಂಥವ್ರನ್ನ ಫಸ್ಸಿ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ದ ನರೇಟರ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ರೈಬ್ಸ್ ಮ್ಯಾಬಲ್ ಆಸ್ ಎ ಫಸ್ಸಿ ವುಮನ್. ಶಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ರೆಸಸ್ ಆಂಗ್ಸೈಟಿ unnecessarily. She overreacts. So, what did grandfather suggest? As soon as Mabel comes home, they must show the python. They must inform her that a python is present at home, so that she becomes used to the python. ಅವಳಿಗೂ ಪೈಥಾನ್ ಪರಿಚಯ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಹೊಂದ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತಾಳೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಗ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ಫಾದರ್ನ ಉದ್ದೇಶ. The narrator says she is fussy and he did not like Mabel staying with them. Look forward to. So this is again one look forward to. Look forward to ಅಂದರೆ ನಿರೀಕ್ಷಿಸೋದು. You expect somebody or something with anticipation, eagerly. ಈ ಕಾತರದಿಂದ ಎದುರು ನೋಡೋದು, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಲುಕ್ ಫಾರ್ವರ್ಡ್ ಟು. ಯು ಲುಕ್ ಫಾರ್ವರ್ಡ್ ಟು ಸಂಬಡೀಸ್ ವಿಸಿಟ್, ಲುಕ್ ಫಾರ್ವರ್ಡ್ ಟು ದ ಅರೈವಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಸಂಬಡಿ, ಲುಕ್ ಫಾರ್ವರ್ಡ್ ಟು ದ ವೆಕೇಷನ್. ಕಾತರದಿಂದ ನಿರೀಕ್ಷೆ ಮಾಡೋದನ್ನು ಲುಕ್ ಫಾರ್ವರ್ಡ್ ಟು ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. ಬಟ್ ಹಿಯರ್ ಮ್ಯಾಬಲ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಮಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಸ್ಟೇ ವಿತ್ ಅಸ್ ಟುಮಾರೋ. ಹೂ ಡಿಡ್ ನಾಟ್ ಲುಕ್ ಫಾರ್ವರ್ಡ್ ಟು ಫಸಿ ಆಂಟ್ ಮ್ಯಾಬಲ್ಸ್ ವಿಸಿಟ್ಸ್. But here they did not look forward to her visits. They did not eagerly wait for her to visit them. ಅವರೇನು ಕಾತರದಿಂದ ಅವಳು ಬರೋದನ್ನ ನಿರೀಕ್ಷೆ ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ಶಿ ಈಸ್ ಫಸ್ಸಿ, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವೈ. ವೆಲ್, you will do no such thing, said grandmother. But grandmother resisted and strictly told grandfather that he must at once abandon the snake or the python. And also, he must not, in case he keeps the python at home, he must not show Mabel the python. ಅಕಸ್ಮಾತ್ ಅವನು ಅದನ್ನು ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಮ್ಯಾಬಲ್ಗೆ ತೋರಿಸಬಾರ್ದು. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್, she does not want him to keep the pet at home. She wants him to abandon it immediately. In case it is at home, he must not show it to Mabel. That is her condition. Well, I can't let it loose in the garden, said grandfather with an innocent expression. He said, if I let it loose in the garden, ಅದನ್ನು ಹಾಗೆ ಬಿಟ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಗಾರ್ಡನಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ನಷ್ಟು ತೊಂದರೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಹಾರ್ಮ್ಫುಲ್ ಟು allow the python to move in the garden freely. So it is again going to be harmful. And see, innocent expression, ಅಮಾಯಕನ ಥರ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾನೆ, as if he does not know the danger. He speaks as if he is very innocent. It might find its way into the poultry house, and then where would we be? So if it is let loose, if it is allowed to move in the garden freely, will it be in the garden itself? Definitely it will go into the poultry house. ಕೋಳಿ ಸಾಕಾಣಿಕೆ ಕೇಂದ್ರ ಪಕ್ಕದಲ್ಲಿತ್ತೇನೋ ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹೊಟ್ಟೋಗುತ್ತೆ. If it goes there, obviously it will swallow the chicks there. ಕೋಳಿ ಮರಿಗಳನ್ನು ಖಂಡಿತವಾಗಿ ನುಂಗಿಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ, and that will cause a big problem. So he says he can't let the python move freely in the garden. How exasperating you are, grumbled grandmother. How exasperating you are, annoying, irritating. He is very annoying and irritating fellow. And she says, lock the creature in the bathroom, go back to the bazaar and find the man you bought it from and get him to come and take it back. So she immediately offers a solution, a remedy. ಒಂದು ಉಪಾಯ ಹೇಳ್ತಾಳೆ. You lock it in the bathroom, go back to the bazaar, find the snake charmer, bring him home and ask him to take the python back with him. ಬಜಾರ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಆ ಹಾವಾಡಿಗನ್ನ ಕರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬನ್ನಿ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಮುಂಚೆ ಬಾತ್ರೂಮಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಲಾಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಇಟ್ಬಿಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಪೈಥಾನ್ ಕರ್ಕೊಂಬಂದು ಆ ಹಾವಾಡಿಗನಿಗೆ ಹೇಳಬೇಕು ತಗೊಂಡು ಹೊಟ್ಟೋಗು ಅಂತ. ಇದು ಅವಳು ಸಜೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೋಂಥ ಒಂದು ಸೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್. In my awestruck presence, grandfather had to take the python into the bathroom, where he placed it in a steep-sided tin tub. Then he hurried off to the bazaar to look for the snake charmer, while grandmother paced anxiously up and down the veranda. When he returned looking crestfallen, we knew he hadn't been able to find the man. In my awestruck presence, awestruck is the narrator. The narrator is telling this. He was awestruck. Awestruck means he was shocked, he was confused, he was surprised. All these feelings are mixed. Awestruck. He was frightened to some extent, he was surprised, he was shocked. All these feelings were there for the narrator, who is a very small boy. And what did grandfather do? Grandfather had to take the python into the bathroom. Why was the narrator awestruck? He was surprised, shocked, frightened, all these things. Because grandfather himself had to carry the python into the bathroom to lock it up there. ಅದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಆಶ್ಚರ್ಯ, ಭಯ ಎಲ್ಲ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. Where he placed it in a steep-sided tin tub. ಒಂದು ಟಿನ್ ಟಬ್ಬಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಪೈಥಾನ್ನ ಹಾಕಿ ಇಟ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾನೆ. Then he hurried off to the bazaar. Hurried off. He walked hurriedly. He walked very fast to the bazaar to find the snake charmer, while grandmother paced anxiously up and down the veranda. She was moving to and fro. ಆ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ಈ ಕಡೆಗೆ, ಈ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ಆ ಕಡೆಗೆ anxiously, ಆತಂಕದಿಂದ ಓಡಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ಲು grandmother. When he returned looking crestfallen, we knew he hadn't been able to find the man. How did he return? Crestfallen. Crestfallen means disappointed, sad. When the people at home saw grandfather, they could make out that he could not find the snake charmer because his face was disappointed. The expression on his face was one of disappointment or sadness. From that, they could understand or infer that the grandfather had not found the python. ಮುಖ ಸಪ್ಪಗಿಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬರ್ತಾನೆ, ಅದರಿಂದಾನೇ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಹಾವಾಡಿಗ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ the grandfather could not find the python. And later what happens? Will grandfather allow the python, rather will the grandmother allow the grandfather to keep the python at home as a pet, or will she ask him to abandon it himself? Let us learn that in the next session.